This is interesting. Okay, everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Gooner Gathering. I don't think this is going out, Dom.
No.
And I'll tell you why. Because it says on my screen here, looks like this stream was deleted on YouTube.
That's a bit of a...
No, it is a bit of a shame, isn't it?
Do we need to set up another
anyone in the comments, just see, is anyone watching us on twitch.tv/Gooner Gathering?
Hold on.
Anyone there? Hello?
I've just commented for my own account. Yeah. So it's not going out on mine, but it is going out on yours.
Okay. Oh, well, that's better than nothing, I suppose. Shall we go with it?
Let's go with it. Let's go with it. We got it on yours. That's the main thing.
Shall we roll with it? We're going to take our time, say what we say, don't let anything get in our way.
That just sound too much for you to say.
Exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are here. Hopefully, this will go through absolutely no problems, just like a Gooner Gathering should do. So, oh look, there's someone in the chat. Look, his name's Don Palmer. You might have heard of him.
Yeah.
There he is.
Handsome
Dom,
little
fella. That's what I've heard. How you been? You all right, mate?
Very well, mate. Very well. How about your good self?
Apart from the fact for the last half hour I've been behind a computer screen, absolutely losing my temper with it. Yeah, I changed my words there. Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Today's been a good day at the office. Office.
Yeah.
Not quite as flush as your one.
I've been in this office today.
Have you? Excellent stuff. But you know, it's been a good day, and do you know what? It's about time we did another Gooner Gathering stream. It'd be just grand if I can find what I need to find, because I've got no notes. I have nothing. Oh, hello. Who's this? Online Big Blue. That's your mate, isn't it, mate?
It is indeed. It is. Yeah.
Would you like to read the comment out there, mate? There you go.
Road to 150 subs, which is me. There are that many soccer fans or Dom fans. Tim is obviously from America, hence it's soccer. I believe, Tim, we agreed to call it European football so that we didn't fall out.
Oh, I've never heard it called that before. That's a great idea. Why has no one ever done that? Excellent stuff. But, hang on. Football.
Yeah, well done, mate.
Go sports teams. So, okay, we'll try and get this as professional as a Gooner Gathering stream should possibly be.
Tim is the ultimate professional over at.
Is he?
Yeah, I don't think he's ever been described as a professional before, but we'll go with it today.
I couldn't possibly comment.
I'm 0 points in.
You're missing out half the fun, mate.
Tomorrow.
Oh hell yeah! In the words of Stone Cold Steve Austin. But look, let's try and get onto some serious business, Dom. Because look, yeah, another transfer window is closed. Arsenal haven't bought anyone, mate. What's going on?
Oh, dear me. It's funny you say that because that's actually tomorrow's video. We recorded earlier. Yeah, I mean, it's a funny one, this one, isn't it? Because it's a small window which opened earlier than normal by a week or so. And then is closed for a few days before reopening again next week. For anyone that wondered why, it's because of the Club World Cup, which Arsenal aren't in. And it allowed teams competing that to get some transfers in ahead of that tournament. So that's why it is. No need to panic. And look, from my point of view, as long as you've got the signings in definitely before the pre-season tour, but ideally before pre-season, that's what matters.
Great to see Noel Kane and Russ Morgan dropping in here as well. It means to say people can see us, mate. That's Indeed. All good, isn't it? Russ Morgan believes in Joe Hendry. That's good to see. I'll give her. Hang on. There you go. That's just for you, Russ. That's a wrestling reference that's going to go over Dom's head, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I'm assuming a wrestling one.
And as Niall Kane quite rightly says, don't worry, lads. Transfer window will reopen on Monday. It's only a mini small window due to the Club World Cup.
Indeed.
Exactly. But
But in terms of things going over my head, Lee, in fairness, I'm 5 foot tall, but I can jump. So not, if anything went over my head, I would catch it.
do you know? It's funny you should say that, because have you noticed something, mate? If I take this off a little bit, I've waited so long for a transfer, all my hair's come out.
I did notice it was looking a little bit trim. Your eyebrows are coming back though.
Yeah, they're on their way. I mean, it's been a little while since that Eddie Nketiah moment, hasn't it? Do I like wrestling, Niall Kane? I mean, how long have you been watching our channel, mate? even since the OG days with the poshest man in all sports entertainment. There he is. Say his name, by the way, and he appears. Posh Bertie is in the chat. There he is. He
Evening,
does. He
Posh.
get. I just keep it rather, quiet. I don't like it sort of coming out too obvious. You know what I mean? It's good to see everybody here. We might be one of the first YouTube streamers that are actually working this evening. But there you go.
Well, good for us though.
Exactly. I mean, I thank you, Dom, for getting me. I was about to give it up. I was about to let everybody down. I was going to let anyone run around and desert them, as Rick Ashley might have said once. Anyway, let's get into the serious business, shall we? Let's try and do that as best as we can, with all the distractions that are going on here. Right. Right. So first bit of business. So we talk about Zubi. That's probably a good place to start.
Let's start with him.
Because Martin Zubimendi, of course, played his part in the Nations League final against Spain. Well, Spain versus Portugal. the other day. Scored a great goal as well, by the way, in that final. I mean, why hasn't he signed yet, Dom? Could it be anything to do with the fact he's been on international duty?
It might well be. I mean, the reality is that I think there's two things going on here, isn't there? One is he's reportedly not had his medical. He could well have had his medical before reporting for international duty. That reportedly hasn't happened yet. But Arsenal, very, very calm, very, very confident. There was a report saying that Real Madrid were going to try and hijack the move. That came from Marca, who of course are Marca, apologies, who are as we know, a well-known Real Madrid supporting newspaper, and they tend to be very positive about all things Madrid rather than necessarily factually accurate. Arsenal very calm. Fabrizio Romano, David Ornstein and others all reporting this still is done. It's got the here we go. This is going to happen in July. I've been very, very confident and calm about this for some time. Arsenal consider it done. I think it's done and he will be coming.
I hope so, mate. I hope so, because I think that's the basis of a really good start to a window. Quite honestly, especially with Jorginho officially making his early exit out of the club to join the club in Brazil, which name was
Flamengo.
There you go. Thank you very much. What a shame.
Not the dance, obviously.
No, but we could do that behind a paywall potentially.
Yes. Only Lee's.
Yeah, only Lee's. I think that's what they call it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the thing is, though, if he comes in and Jorginho goes and Partey signs, you've got to say that's an upgrade in that Arsenal midfield. Even if he starts slowly, you can start with the same midfield as you had at the end of last season and move him in. What I really would like to have seen, and I would like to have seen it being, if we were running short of money, Naipan would have been ideal because he'd have been quite cheap and you could have had that player off the bench. He's obviously gone to City today, but some kind of player like that, I think, would be quite interesting coming in. But that, I'm not going to be complaining about that at all if it's just Zubimendi coming in that midfield, as long as we do business elsewhere. But of course, he probably won't be the first signing. Thoughts on Kepa, who looks like he's going to be the first signing, Lee?
I will get to that in just a second, but with Napan as well, doesn't it? I won't get myself all upset with someone that we might be missing out with a youth player signing potentially for City that's going straight out on loan back to somewhere else.
He's going to their parent club, isn't he? Not parent club. City are their parent club. He's going to Girona.
It's going to a babysitter.
He's going to a babysitter. But yeah, I mean, I think he looks an exciting player, but you can't, is he a game
Yeah,
changer? No. I sort of ring him up as a sort of cheap person you can bring in towards the end that might be something that can provide something different in that
yeah,
position. But Wanyeri could potentially do that, and there's other options for Arsenal. So it's not something I'm going to get
yeah,
upset over. But I think he looks a bit of a talent. Interesting that he's gone
yeah.
there and not Villa, because that looked done. But
Yeah, it did. It did. I'll say big up to Anthony Herbert, who's joined us as well. Big up, lads. Hope you're well. Yes, we are. Thank you very much. And I'm glad we are streaming in front of all of you right now. Russ is saying, like we've been saying for a little while, mate, that Zuby won't sign until July
yeah,
because of the PSR request from so yeah, dad. And not wrong with that. As long as it gets done, like you say before,
yeah.
the lads go down to Singapore and start the pre-season off, right?
Exactly, and I think interesting on that as well. Arsenal have got a good deal on this by all accounts. They paid over the asking price, but have got a really
Yeah,
good structured deal as a result of agreeing to do the first instalment in July. Clubs apparently have a good relationship. I know it
yeah.
sounds daft to pay more than you have to, but the reason is you can stagger the payment. With trigger the release clause, it's one payment. That's it. So that's why it's going to be July when it happens. I'm very relaxed, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and as you just mentioned just before we went away with that, it does look rather like Kappa Azabalanga might be the first signing over the line. How'd I do my pronunciation, lads? Did I do all right?
Better than me. That's why I'm calling him Kepper.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It looks like he'd probably be the first one over the line. If you've been following the announcements, he's been left out of the Chelsea squad for the Club World Cup. For
In
about
fairness, they've only got 8 goalkeepers, so someone had to miss
right,
out.
exactly. And to be fair, we haven't got enough goalkeepers, have we? In fairness, we haven't got enough goalkeepers.
Senior goalkeepers, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and this is what is important about this deal, isn't it? It's all well and good having David Raya, who's done ever so well over the last couple of seasons, but just say something goes terribly wrong. Just say he picks up an injury, goes and tweaks a hamstring on a clearance, gets sent off or whatever. You have to have an experienced backup, don't you?
Agreed. I mean, I would have been fine if Arsenal had chosen to go Carl Hein. He's had a good season over in
Yeah.
Spain. I know they got relegated, and everyone says, "Well, he got relegated. He's a rubbish
Ah.
goalkeeper." Aaron Ramsdale got relegated. I don't think he's a bad goalkeeper by any stretch. But the thing with Hein was, and I think this is the reason why I'm quite high on this Kepa signing, is I suspect that Hein said he didn't want to be a number 2. Arsenal will now sell him, but he doesn't have Premier League experience. I think he looks a decent number 2 level goalkeeper for
Mm.
Arsenal, but we don't know. Kepa, at least we do know what we're getting. It's a very cheap deal. We sell on value, and we can make some money from Hein, which we can reinvest elsewhere. And this saves you 20 million on Garcia. I think Garcia would have been a better number 2 than Hein and Kepa, but
Right.
he obviously wants to play. But 25 million for backup goalkeeper is quite a lot. So I think this is what I describe as a very smart deal from Arsenal's perspective.
Certainly leaves a bit of the budget somewhere else, doesn't it? Let's be fair. I mean, we all know where money needs to be spent, don't we?
Yeah,
We need to get
yeah.
another left back, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 100% a left back.
And
I mean, but in all seriousness, that could happen. We should probably touch on that later. But last year,
yeah,
I think just on Kepa, and you're right, the money now can be spent elsewhere, which is clearly, obviously, we think Supermendi's done. But that's the number 9 in the left wing, or certainly another wide forward at least is a priority. But in all seriousness, on this is quite funny.
posh Bertie, I've needed a good laugh, and you know why, right? And we should have signed Scott Carson. He's a trophy winner.
But in all
Mate,
seriousness,
you're a joker.
I mean, Scott
Shall I
Carson's
put him
older
in
than us,
time
I
out?
think. No, it's a very
Tell me
funny.
about why should we sign Scott Carson?
Well, the thing about Scott Carson is he's older than me and you, but
It's the way you tell them. Oh, that's Frank Carson, isn't it? Sorry.
yeah, wrong one.
Sorry.
But I mean, on Kepa though, I think there are a
Yeah.
couple of people really down on this. Like,
Yeah.
my challenge back would be find me a goalkeeper of his ability, that is Premier League experience, can play out, is a decent Premier League goalkeeper. He's a number 2 for Arsenal. He's not a number 1, obviously. Or he think he
Yeah.
can challenge Rare, I'm sure. But find me one for 5 million that is as good or better than that. And I think to be honest with you, he's up there with the best backups in the league. I think Ortega will probably sort of be on a similar
Yeah,
level as will potentially this Georgian that's come in to be the Liverpool number two. I think Arsenal are matching that, and then there's no one else there.
yeah.
And I think the good thing about him is that he is a stylistic fit. I don't necessarily think Ortega fully is at Man City, but he's not a million miles off. But he's a bit dodgy playing out and can't do what Edison can do, which very few can. And I don't know enough about the Georgian goalkeeper to know if it is, but I think you want your number two to be a stylistic fit and be good enough, as you rightly say, if Raya gets injured.
Injured, suspended, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, we need some cover. You can't rely on a 16, 17-year-old goalkeeper to come in and fill the gap
No,
of, in fairness, the Golden Glove winner, right? Um,
2 years running Golden Glove winner.
yeah, absolutely right. What do you say then, Dom, to people that will question Kepa's attitude and his mentality? And people are going to point back, of course. And I remember this as clear as day, right? And you know what I'm going to say: the League Cup final when he's playing for Chelsea seems like he's picked up an injury. They want to bring on the sub, and he refused to go off. Just say, I mean, people are going to say, well, imagine if that happened to Arteta. What do you say to the critics, including the one who's made that last comment in our chat here, Mr. Posh Bertie?
I mean, I think that was obviously a disgraceful moment, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely unacceptable. What I would say is it's 6 years ago. He, by all accounts, has mellowed quite considerably. He was a number two at Real Madrid without issue. He's going to be a number two here. And I think the reality is, if he does that to Mikel Arteta, he simply will never play again and he'll be out of the club. Now, that, of course, is a risk from an Arsenal perspective. It leaves you probably Tommy Setford having to step up.
yeah,
But I don't, I think that I've raised it as a potential issue, and I think it's right to sort of one of the risks with the transfer was that and the wages. By all accounts, he's taken a significant wage cut,
yeah,
and it does appear that those days are behind him. So I'm not too concerned about that, but it was right to raise it. Um,
yeah.
and it is a potential issue, but there's been nothing since. So I think I don't think Arsenal would have taken a risk on him if they thought it was likely to happen again.
Yeah, League Cup final in 2019, if I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken,
yeah,
mate.
yeah,
So long time past. He had an excellent season, in my opinion, against Bournemouth. If we can get that one first over line, it might not be a spectacular signing. It might not be what everyone's looking for. I think it'll be a very smart signing and a good start to a window. We get, like we say, we've mentioned Zubimendi, we've mentioned but let's see what happens.
yeah.
Bertie in the chat of break off says, let me put this on the screen. Don't think Kepa's a bad player. I'm more annoyed that we're signing another Chelsea player. Does that matter, Dom? I mean, he's not played for Chelsea in at least 2 years, has he?
I mean, he's coming from Chelsea. I understand why people are irritated with it because we don't have the best record of signing Chelsea players.
Yeah.
I don't think that applies to all Chelsea players. Jorginho, I
No.
thought was absolutely fine. David Luiz was what he was. I think that's really represents where Arsenal were at the time. I think that you've got to then look at it the other way as well, which is Gallas was a pain in the what's its. Sterling obviously didn't
Well
work out.
controlled, sir.
And Willian, I know he came. He was there, and he
He
at
can go
least
back to the
lived up
Black
his
Eyed
contract.
Peas, can't he?
Yeah, Will I am. But yeah, so there are ones that definitely didn't work, right? But I think a lot of them came when Arsenal weren't so great. I'm not too worried
Yeah.
about this one. I think this is the right sort of player to take from Chelsea. I'd be far more worried if we were taking, someone like Ben Chilwell. I don't know if he's still at Chelsea, who a good player but hasn't
I think
played for them
yes.
for years because he's injured or,
Went on loan, I think, didn't he, last season, if
yeah,
I'm not mistaken? Yeah.
or someone like Nkunku, I think that would worry me because it's
Went to
not worked out
Palace.
at all.
That's where he went. He
Uh,
went to Palace. Won the cup, didn't he?
Chilwell, Chilwell,
Yeah.
yeah. I think yes, you're right. Yeah, or someone like that, like an Nkunku or someone that I didn't think was anywhere near what we needed. And as you say, it's not a stunning signing. It's a smart signing. I don't really care if it's the first or the fourth signing in. What you want to see is signings in before pre-season, as we said earlier, and the order of them arriving doesn't matter because we're not going to play a game. I think if you're going to Singapore and he's your only signing in, then it's the time to worry.
Exactly. Talking of former Chelsea players, segue to Kai Havertz, everybody. Let's talk about
the much maligned Kai Havertz.
Exactly, Kai Havertz. So let's not forget he just at the back end of the season made an maybe unexpected return to the first team after his ACL injury, etc. What do you think his role will be up for the new season? Because I still think that he's going to have a real important part to play, even if stroke when we get some new strikers over the line. I still think Kai has a very important place in that Arsenal side, certainly early doors in the season.
Yeah, I agree. So I think when I signed him, yeah, it was all
When
me.
you signed,
Yeah,
you did it.
It was all me. It all been me like me Edu for 2 years. It was me. When we signed him, my initial reaction was I felt it was a slight overpay by 5-10 million, but not massive, right?
Yeah.
I thought. I thought he'd come in and play the 8, which is obviously where he started. And he moved to the 9, but I thought it'd be a slow start for him because he'd not played 8 before, and he was normally more advanced. And I thought he'd be a starter for 2 years and then become a squad player. And I felt that actually a player of his ability as a squad player meant you were probably in business. And let's for all he's maligned, and he's certainly not the most clinical player in the world. His biggest fault would be he's not overly clinical, but he does fit the way we play relatively well. I think we in the last 2 years have been or 18 months we've been a better side with him up front than without him up front. But that doesn't mean he's upgradable, and I think that's where Arsenal will look to go this year. Arsenal will get a number 9, no question about that in my mind. And Kai Havertz, I think, will become one number 9, one,
not 2.
No, one number 9. That's my view. And I think Kai Havertz will probably start the season, which will sort of ease the pressure on your new number 9 a little bit, which I think, given our, us as Arsenal fans generally, our propensity for not exactly being the most welcoming if people struggle in the first few games. Moreno, Havertz, and others have sort of suffered from that in recent years, and both have sort of proved people wrong, in fairness to them. Might just ease the pressure there. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Havertz start and then as a number 9 and then be replaced and phased out. I think he will get plenty of minutes, as you allude to. I don't really want to see him in the left 8, but I can see him getting minutes there. I don't really want to see that, but I think he'll get some there. I think he'll get some minutes for Odegaard, and I think he'll get some minutes up front as well. I think it will be a lot of minutes off the bench as the sort of season goes through. But it's a great
boom! We another goal capper.
There's my announcement video headline. Thanks, Russ. I'm nicking that. But yeah, back on Kai Havertz. I think he will get plenty of minutes. Well, you recover from the giggles. Arteta loves him. I think he's much maligned. But I think when he's your squad player, and I think he will be a squad player, and one of the first sort of names off the bench, I think when he's in your squad but not your starting 11, I think that means you're starting to be in business. He's a talented player. There's no question about it. But Arsenal right to be upgrading him in the number 9, despite his record of 1 and 2.
Exactly. I mean, he would have, in our opinion, certainly people might take the mickey out of us, Dom. It's water for ducks back with me, but he would have easily scored 20 goals last season. I'm sure of that.
Comfortably. I mean, he had 15 at the end of January in all competitions. Would he have got 20 league goals? Probably not. But given the struggles we had in attack, which I think was partly due to the sort of shopping and changing, partly due to the injuries, and partly due to, as we said, I think we both said, but I certainly did in the summer, the squad size was right, but it was one defender too heavy, one attacker too light. So that's where you have to also look at it. But I think he'd have certainly gone. I reckon he'd have got 23, 24 goals in all competitions come the end of the season, with probably about 18 league goals.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. That's absolutely
in a difficult season.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So then that brings us over to the question of the number 9, and here we go again, everybody. It's the ongoing mystery of the new Arsenal number 9, isn't it?
Indeed.
First, it looks like it's Benjamin Sesko, and and now you get all sorts of weird sort of talks coming out from the camp of Victor Gorkarez. Don, what do you make of everything that's come out over the last couple of days, mate?
Well, let's be honest. First it was Gyökeres, then it was Sesko, then it was back to Gyökeres. Um,
Right.
my view hasn't changed. Arsenal talking to both. It's quite clear they're talking to both. Berta, by all accounts, likes to get his players. Excuse me. Sorry. Get all the info, how much they cost, how much the wage is going to be, etc., etc. Arsenal reportedly had a bid turned down today because it didn't
Yep.
meet the 60 plus 10 euro valuation. That source seems to be in Portugal. They do have a history of being incorrect, so let's not read too much into that. But I think Arsenal definitely in contact with both. In case one falls through, they will go for the other. I think that's sensible. I don't think there's the world supply difference between the two. You can look at the stats from Gyökeres and go, well, he scores more goals, etc., etc. He's in a weaker league. Now, I haven't. Now, that's also bashed by Sesko fans to bash him and go, well, he's in a weaker league. I think he's proved himself capable in, I mean, that's a phenomenal amount of goals, right? No question about it. But I think he showed in the Champions League that he is capable of playing at this level. The Championship is obviously not the Premier League, but he's used to playing in England. I don't have concerns about Gyökeres coming in. You never know until someone comes in. Gyökeres is my preference, not just based on the stats, but based on the style. So
Right.
I think for me on Gyökeres, I think he's probably the more likely to hit the ground running of the two because he's the more experienced, has played in England before, and is entering his prime. So in some ways, he's the less risky signing for the now, and I think Arsenal need to be looking at the now. But I like him because I think both players are physical, both players are decent first touch, decent in the air, decent shooters. But the reason I prefer him is because I like the fact he can sort of drift into that left area really quite well as link up play and offers something a little bit more direct behind.
Bit
You
like
know,
Havertz does.
yeah, and I think, but that suits the way we play, right?
Yeah,
If you look,
exactly.
we don't necessarily, we share the goals around generally speaking, but I like the fact he drifts left. Havertz tends to drift right, but I like the fact he drifts left. And actually, with someone like Martinelli, he can then drift inside to that number 9 and they can interchange. And I think that could be quite useful. That's why I prefer Gyökeres. Sesko has, as Bertie alludes to here, has the same amount of goals as Havertz this season.
Yeah.
In a side, in terms of Leipzig, that has struggled this season, let's be honest. But I think
Yeah.
if you look at Gyökeres, and I've got some stats on my phone, which I might just try and pull up in a second. Sorry,
That's Andy
Sesko.
Harry.
It is, isn't it? I think if you look at his stats, he's actually has a better shot conversion, I think, in the box than Gyökeres. And I will just pull these up just to sort of double check what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so big chances created. Here you go. And this sort of highlights the difference between Arsenal and Leipzig. It's 80 big chances created for Leipzig, 110 for Arsenal last season. Touches in the box, Arsenal had 500 more than Leipzig. And Arsenal created 1.4 accurate crosses per game than Leipzig, which sort of shows that his 13 goals, he's getting much less of an opportunity near a goal to score those goals. He's having to sort of take lower percentage chances go in, and that sort of highlights. And I don't think Arsenal, by the way, had a very good year from last year. I think had they been better, those numbers would have been even bigger. But I think it just shows that he's not necessarily getting the ball where he wants to be able to increase his goal scoring chances. And I think that's kind of what that shows. I definitely think he's slightly more raw than Gyökeres, which is, because he's 21, right? And he's still developing.
Yeah.
I think the signing I would make is Gyökeres because he's ready now. But I think that Sesko coming in, I don't think is a bad thing at all. I think it's a sensible long-term one, but I don't think that means he's not ready to play now at all. And I think he could come in with the chances Arsenal create. I think he could get 20 goals quite comfortably. But I prefer Gyökeres because he's a stylistic fit, but with a slight difference. He can do something slightly different to what Havertz does. I think Sesko is a bit too similar to Havertz, and that's why I prefer Gyökeres. But I am not going to complain about either, and I just don't think you can just look at him and go, well, he scored only 13 goals this season. Leipzig really struggled. He scored 13 goals at 21 in a top league. Now, I know people will look at the Frankfurt guy, and I think you can sort of see that. But I think Sesko is widely commended by lots of scouts, and he's done it over 2 seasons. I think the other lads, Ekatike's done it over 1. I think he looks a hell of a talent too. By the way, but I sort of can see why you'd be reticent to do that this year if you're Arsenal, because you can't get it wrong. A bit like why I understood why no one went for Gyökeres or Sesko last year. Well, we did, but he decided to stay because there were still reservations about them both last year. I think Ekatike is kind of in that world, but I'm not too worried about which one it is. My preference is Gyökeres. I don't know who yours is. Sorry, that was a long answer, but I think it's important to sort of talk about the difference between the two.
Absolutely. I've said before, I'll stay consistent. The Gyökeres one always is interested to me. And the reason behind it is because I've seen more of him. I like what I see at Sesko. Yes, absolutely I do. But the more the way I see it is that Gyökeres has already played in England, albeit for Coventry in the Championship. I think he'd be more set to hit the ground running, honestly.
Yes, I do too.
And it doesn't mean to say Arsenal aren't potentially looking at other forwards as well. I've mentioned the Watkins one already, maybe not even a week ago, saying that this it still sounds like one that might be still an interesting deal. I think I read something or heard something on Sky Sports News this week saying that Watkins or sorry Aston Villa as a whole is the one club that in terms of PSR is worrying the people who are watching this whole situation. I don't think that's completely out of the question. The slightly older, maybe, experienced player, still a really good player, still would fit the system very, very well. It's not out of the question, is it?
I don't think it's out of the question. I think Watkins becomes the option Arsenal go to in a world where they can't get one of the other two done. I think Watkins on his own, and I would have signed him in January, and Arsenal tried to, obviously. Villa, as you rightly said, needed to offload, and they still need to offload because of PSR. They've not qualified for the Champions League, and their wages to turnover last year with Champions League football, by the way, was not over 90%. That is not a good position, and I think we need to remember that when we're talking about when you're building from sort of lower down going up, how difficult it is to sort of build your squad because of the finances. Because you're spending money, your wages increase dramatically, and your revenue doesn't necessarily increase with it. Newcastle struggled with that last summer as well. I think he's your option if it doesn't come in, but I think it's underwhelming if he's your only number 9. But if you were to say suddenly get a Rodrigo on the left wing and Watkins, I think that then becomes less of an issue. I've no problem with Watkins coming in, but he's a stopgap for me for the next 2 years rather than a now. But he is a 20-goal a season striker, and I'm not complaining about it, but I would prefer one of the other two, even though they're probably more risky because neither have played in the Premier League before. But I would have signed Gyökeres, by the way, when he left Coventry. I was very high on him then. But I think one of those two would be my preference. But, we'll see.
And of course, as Bertie brings up, having the fact that he's got has played with former Ebbsfleet striker Matt Godden when they were both at Coventry would obviously mean that he can work with the world-class talent up with him. Maybe even playing a dual striker system, perhaps.
Maybe he'd like to be reunited. We could send him on loan, maybe.
Perhaps.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, quite. It's probably a good idea to mention the talent I don't think we have mentioned on this channel yet, and that is a Blackburn striker, 17-year-old kid called Igor Tijon, I think it is. He's a guy who's only played a couple of games for Blackburn Rovers. Like I said, he is 17 years old. He has been widely linked to the club. It's nothing confirmed yet, and of course, he's even rawer than Sesko, to be honest. But being that Arsenal had a big clear out, I'm sure you all would have seen the released names that went out of the club from the under 23s, under 21s, under 19s over the last couple of weeks. It's important, and it's always also been noted that Arsenal are going to put money into younger talent. So it's
Which
worth.
they did last year as well, of course.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. But I mean, as it stands at the moment, we've probably got the two younger goalkeepers that we mentioned, plus plus one outstanding talent, Max Dowman, and that's possibly about it. The other talents that maybe have made some sort of first team involvement have gone, really, haven't they?
Yeah, and
So,
they wouldn't have been anywhere near it had Arsenal, not had the injuries, and had Arsenal, as I think we both sort of thought they should have done,
yeah,
acted in January. The likes of Butler Adeji would not have been in that
that's the
first team.
name I was looking for.
But yeah, he's obviously been released, and I think that's the right decision. I think it's important that Arsenal do put some money aside every year to sort of try and boost that youth team academy, because if you can get two players through every sort of 2-3 years, two players probably every 3 years, you're saving yourself a lot of money, even if they are squad players. You look at how much money we save from Miles and Wanyeri coming through. We could be having Downman coming through too. You're not
Yeah.
always going to get it from every group, so these are probably the first guys coming through really since the Saka, Smith Rowe, and Ketia
Yeah.
guys coming through. And I know, I know Nketiah obviously has been and gone, but Arsenal made a decent amount of money, as they did with Balogun. But that's the advantage. And I think I've no problem with Arsenal investing it. What I do think Arsenal need to do, and I'm being quite serious here, is get better at selling the guys that they don't think are going to make it.
Yeah, getting a decent fee for them, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We've kind of done it relatively well with fringe first team players. Nketiah was given a new deal partly because Arsenal wanted to see if he could make it or not, but sell on. Nelson, another one that hopefully will get some money from this year. Sambi Lokonga, before he went out on loan, was made to sign an extension, so Arsenal protected value. Again, we don't know if he's going to get money, but they look like they might get some money from that sort of thing. But it's the ones that aren't good enough that don't make it through. Butler Adeji probably wouldn't have got much money from him because he was hopeless when he went out on loan to Shrewsbury. But, let's say he went to Shrewsbury and scored 15 goals in 46 league games, something like that. 1 in 3. It's not amazing. You could get, a few £100,000 for him. That all helps, right, with your running costs of your academy. And Arsenal just not doing that. And you're seeing our rivals actually do manage to do that relatively successfully. So that's the thing I think Arsenal really should be looking at there. But I'm a fan of the investment. I think as long as it doesn't preclude you from doing the other deals you need to do, and it doesn't look like it's going to, then I think that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, and in the same sort of, just as we're going through this, it's probably worth saying there's a couple of players that did make it onto the bench that have left as well, like Sir Jimmy or Jack Henry Francis. In fact, there's a couple of Egyptian lads as well, the Salah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
His brother.
yeah, exactly. And there's a goalkeeper there on Cornet. So yeah, it's worth pointing them out and obviously wishing them the best of luck.
Wishing him luck, yeah.
And of course, Kieran Tierney had his signing at Celtic absolutely confirmed by the Celtic social media over the last day. So that is that one.
The interesting other one on that list is Thomas Partey, of course, who was included on that list.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's even said today it's in the hands of his agent and the club at the moment.
Yeah.
Still seems a little bit uncertain which way that one's going to go, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, by all accounts, he knows this is probably his last big contract, so wants as much money as possible. Arsenal feel he needs to take a wage cut because of his age, because his squad role is probably going to be decreased from a starter to a squad player. But look, let's not forget, and it's important when you're doing these things, that you don't just look at one season, you look at their time here. And he's been fantastic when he's been fit. He's just not been fit enough. So you can understand why Arsenal want to reduce his wages. So he's got to decide, does he want to stay in London and keep playing for Arsenal, or does he want to go elsewhere where he might get more money and be a starter? And that's why these things are not as simple as some make out, which is just, pay the money and it's done. For some players, it's not just about the money. He seems somewhat willing to take a pay cut, but whether he'll go far enough down or not, I don't know. But he's got to decide between the money and playing. If he goes because he wants to get the money, then fine. If he goes because he wants to be guaranteed a starting position, then I've got a lot of respect for him. But if he stays on less money to be part of this as well, you've got to, respect that too. But it just shows it's not as straightforward as people think it is. There's lots going on, lots of bits that sort of impact the decision.
Yeah, lots of moving parts in a very
Yeah.
early part of the transfer window. I think that is probably our one of our closing messages of this stream is that, look, okay, I understand that we are a couple of weeks into June now and nothing's really gone over the line, at least in terms of officially announced. But I wouldn't be getting too upset at this stage. I'd be getting upset, and believe me, I'll be making myself heard if come when we play the next game, which I think, from memory, is about 40 days' time against AC Milan. I'll be really impressed if I've got that. Oh my God, I'm spot on. I'm actually spot on. 40 days until we play AC Milan. I'd be a bit cross if nothing's gone over the line by then. There's still plenty of time, isn't there, for things to be, what's the word? I's to be dotted and T's to be crossed.
Yep. And and circle those O's. I once had a manager tell me that we were doing something that was important. He was like, make sure you dot the I's, cross the T's, and circle the O's. He was a Geordie.
Well, I've never heard that one before.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a new one on me, ladies and gentlemen. Fair enough. Fair enough. Dom, is there anything else we need to cover? I can't think of at the moment, mate.
No, I mean, just very quickly.
Yeah.
What do you make of? There's sort of two things here. What do you think the most important position for Arsenal sign this summer is? Because I'm arguing it's actually a wide forward. Well, I think we need a number 9, but I would argue the wide left is more important, arguably, than the number 9. You want both.
I get you. I get you, because what you want is a bit of cover or stroke competition for Gabriel Martinelli, and Martinelli has not been able to make that position his own. A lot of our best attacks. Hello, Josh, who's just joined the chat. True Gooner, it's good to see you,
Josh. I told you we were special. Everyone else is down for, but not me and Lee. We're special.
But we are here, ladies and gentlemen. That's why you need to subscribe to our channel, everybody. No,
and Josh too. It's a fantastic channel.
We absolutely love Josh over on Gooner Gathering. He was a massive help on our channel when I was poorly. He really helped us out. StreamYard can't take down Lee and Dom. No, quite right, mate. Although it was about a half hour stressful trying to get logged in, but you can't help everything. Anyway,
there might have been swearing.
They may not have been, but not in front of the camera, ladies and gentlemen. That's what makes us different from everybody else.
Indeed.
So, yeah, to get that competition for Martinelli and everything like that, yes, I think it's really important. If you look at the facts and figures, you see a lot of our attacks go on the right-hand side, and that if we can get some competition on the left, maybe gives us a little bit more of some stuff. It's some attacking prowess that we actually really need. There's a new name. Champions 25 is in the chat. Hello, whoever that is. It's good to see you there. And
hello,
Josh appreciates. Yes, exactly. Like, share, subscribe. Ding. And appreciate the kind words, Josh, mate. You're always more than welcome. If anything we can do for you, mate, we'll do it for you.
100%.
Exactly. I mean, remind me of the Real Madrid lad that's been highly linked. Even Gabriel was talked about, mentioning. Oh, could Rodrigo? Is that right?
Yeah.
Tell me about Rodrigo. What does he bring to the table, and why can't he get in the Real Madrid lineup?
Well, because of a little lad called Mbappe. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Never heard of him.
So yeah,
is he any good?
He is pretty good. He can play on left and right, predominantly on the left. Brazilian. Right. Played the other day, actually, for them. I think he's a hell of a talent. I think he works hard. He doesn't shirk his defensive responsibilities. Creative, direct runner. I'm a big fan of his. He's going to cost 90 million, I'd have thought. And I think if he comes in, I think he can make a real big difference. So I don't think it's a competition thing necessarily for Martinelli because he's got Trossard. What I think is it's about someone that can consistently perform. Martinelli has done really well since he came back from injury, but has not been consistent in the last few years. And I just think that he's got the trickery, and stuff. And Champion 25 here doesn't agree, and that that's great. But let me
Each
know
to their
why.
own.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. But let me know
absolutely.
why. Of course, the risk with him is going to be one. How does he settle in the Premier League? He's not played here before. It's always a risk because you just don't know. But I think the real risk here, with Rodrigo is at the moment we don't know if he wants to leave. There's lots of rumours going on. He wants to leave. He's going to stay. He's going to leave. We don't know at the moment. I don't think we're going to know until after the World Club Cup. I think the real danger here is this goes on, right? That this is a saga that develops over weeks and months. And we get into mid-August, and then suddenly he decides he wants to stay at Real Madrid, or Real Madrid want crazy money. 90 million is obviously a lot, but you can sort of see why he is. He plays for Brazil. He's at Real Madrid. He's a very good player. I think 90 million is a fair price, to be fair, and I don't say that lightly. But you get to mid-August, you can't do a deal, and then you're scrambling around. I think
Yeah.
that's the big risk for me with Rodrigo. But if he came in, I
That,
think that's a game
that,
changer for Arsenal and a real statement.
and if he gets that sort of late stage, you're looking at Raheem Sterling again, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a risk, right? It really is the risk. Whether you could get Matoma out of Brighton or Semenyo out of Bournemouth, but the risk is these guys go, and then you really are scrambling around.
So I'll mention Bertie's
Oh,
thing
yeah.
first. He says Rodrigo's an ambitious statement signing. That's why we're not going to sign him. Who knows, Posh? Who knows? I mean, comments like that and what you put on your social media, sir, is why you're not prominently featured on this channel anymore. You know this, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rodrigo to Arsenal. I think Arsenal seem to be interested in him. I think it will come down to price in some ways. So I think it will depend on
I
how much
agree.
Arsenal spend on. Arsenal have a budget, right? I think it's going to be quite a big budget this year. Last year, I never thought it was going to be
Agreed.
big, and it wasn't. This year, I think it's going to be big. I think some of this is going to be about. By the time we get to Rodrigo, I think it's going to be mid-July before anything even moves because of the Club World Cup. What have Arsenal sold? How much have they spent on the number 9? May well be the determining factor. But I think probably the big determining factor is going to be what Rodrigo wants to do. Walking away from Real Madrid is not easy. It's what made Ozil the statement signing. But I think
Yeah.
that he was. But I think Arsenal are in the place now where we are able to get this type of player. Declan Rice kind of proved that we can. And I think we
Yeah.
can get Rodrigo if he wants to go. I think, but he's going to have to want to go to make this happen. If he doesn't, I don't think it's going to be there.
And then, I mean, like Champions 25 says, we need someone better than Martinelli, not a backup. So, I mean, this is where you come in to say, well, look, Martinelli's obviously been at the club a few years now. Does Rodrigo have maybe more potential than he does? I'm not sure.
I think the
Absolute
ceiling's quite
banger,
high for both.
says
Yeah.
Lexus.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can sort of see the split here, right? I mean, I don't know many people that agree with Champions 25, but I absolutely 100% respect what you're saying. I think
Absolutely.
we don't know if he'd be better in the Premier League than Martinelli. Martinelli is, I think, disrespected by a number in the Arsenal side. When you look at his stats, they're not too dissimilar to other players that we're being linked with. I think my big issue with Martinelli is he really struggled with that decision making and particularly struggles against a low block. And of course, Arsenal face the low block far more these days than they used to. But when teams give him space, I think he looks phenomenal. I think Rodrigo is, I'd have signed Dure last year, but he's not going to come now. But I think he's a phenomenal player. Great
From
value at 50
PSG,
million.
right?
Yeah, they bought him for 50 million and it's going to look like an absolute steal. But I think Rodrigo, not only does he have pace and physicality like Martinelli does, but I think he has a trickery, and that might just actually make him better than Martinelli because of the low block that we often face. And I think just that pace and directness. We've got Trossard for trickery, Martinelli for pace. I think Rodrigo combines both. You probably would say that you could probably say on pure, high line, Martinelli is probably a better player than Rodrigo.
Right.
On absolute low blocks, you could make an argument that Trossard is as good as Rodrigo, but I think Rodrigo can do both sides of the game, as well as those two. But he can do both better, and I think that's what makes him so effective. But it's going to be a very difficult deal to do, and I think the big risk, as I say, is that we get timed out on this one.
And you mentioned Trossard. Still a lot of talks among intermedia about him get an extension to his contract as well, isn't there?
Not an extension. It's going to be the same length apparently, but a pay rise, and that might be just to see off interest in him potentially going, because Arsenal maybe not wanting to try and do yet more business. Which, speaking of which, though, I just wonder what your thoughts are. Just moving it slightly to the other end of the pitch, linked with Gerard Hatto today, and we're always both of us very dubious on rumours and stuff in the media. I'm a big Hatto fan. I'm a big fan of a couple of other defenders, but Hatto would be my man coming in because, as you probably know, I would sell Kivior, who again, is a player I've defended a lot this season. I'm glad to see him getting his flowers at the end of the season, just like last year where he played out of position because of injury crisis and did a reasonable job. I think we saw the best of him towards the end of the season. I sell him because I think his value is never going to be higher, and he's going to go up to be a backup again behind Gabriel. Hatto, I think, would be a really lovely replacement for him. But would you be looking to sell Kivior and bring in another defender, or Zinchenko? But I think Zinchenko would be the one I'd stay because he can play in midfield as well. Or would you be going, don't worry, keep the defence as it is, let's just bang all the money into the attack? Because if you sell Kivior, you're going to spend more on Hatto.
I don't know enough about Hato, but I've heard enough to say that Liverpool were after him as well.
And Chelsea.
I think and he covers a position that we are a bit short on. I don't know what I'm selling Kivior because I like what he does. Scored into the internationals the other day as well.
Man of the match as well.
To a lot of people. There you are. But yeah, I would probably be keeping Kivior. The one I'm actively trying to sell is Zinchenko because he's the one that he seems to have really struggled, and I think it was quite clear to everyone to see that Arteta lost faith in certainly over the last season. Otherwise, would there have been any reason why? You promote a younger kid, Lewis Skelly, as talented as he is, would he have been given that chance if Arteta didn't have the faith in Zinchenko? I think no, he couldn't trust him. That's why he was trying someone else.
I think you're right on the losing the faith to an extent. I would keep Zinchenko because I think you get more for Kivior and he's an easier sell than Zinchenko. And I think Zinchenko's more versatile. He can cover that midfield where I thought he did all right. I actually think Zinchenko's played quite well this season for Arsenal, ironically. But I think the risk here is that if you spend more money on a defender, it's less money to spend elsewhere. But just very quickly on the comment on screen from Lexus. Joe Bellingham has, of course, gone to Dortmund, so he's not an option. I don't know enough about Ethan Mbappe, to be fair. But I think there's an element of that. But I think this season, despite me saying that I'm happy with Sesko, because I think Sesko can come in and play now. I think his ceiling can rise. What I think you want to do is predominantly the 20 million or whatever. No, we don't know what they've been given. Whatever per Mertesac's been given for the youth academy, I think Arsenal should be in terms of the first team signing for now. Rather than the future. I think that we're in the win now phase and we have to deliver now. So I think that's where I'd be. I wouldn't be going for those young players unless they can make a difference to the team now, which I think Sesko can, but not necessarily Ethan Mbappe. But I haven't seen enough of him to absolutely back that statement up.
No, exactly. Bertie would sell Zinchenko and sign a Kieran Tierney from Celtic. I'll have to look into what Kieran Tierney actually brings to the table, of course. Talking of Zinchenko, I'm not one to bring up the gossip, but AC Milan apparently, according to sources, including the metro.co.uk, in talks with Zinchenko in talks with AC Milan today.
And Kivior as well.
Really, the pair of them?
Yeah, the pair of them, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So, I mean, that'll open a few doors for potentially if two defenders go, you want at least another two coming in. So
Yes, I think so.
So yeah, you would have to really put our thinking caps on in terms of that one.
Yeah, I can't see both being allowed to go. I think that would be a mistake.
Not
I
unless
think
you
it's got
get
to.
an experienced pair. I mean, it's all well and good getting players for the future, like we mentioned the forward situation earlier on. Certainly, in terms of getting experienced defenders coming in, that's a different kettle of fish, isn't it? We've
Yeah.
already got a lot of young defenders around there as well, right?
And I think it's also about capacity. Arsenal are going to be looking to sell Vieira, Lokonga, Nelson. You're selling
Yeah,
those guys. You might have to go for another midfielder on top of whatever his name is, Zubimendi, if Partey doesn't sign. There is only so much business Arsenal can do. I think
yeah.
it's got to be one of those two for me.
Have to be realistic, is what you're saying to
Yeah,
everybody, right?
exactly. And if both of them go, that's two defenders you've got to bring in. If one of them goes, it's one defender, and you've just got to look at the capacity of what Berta can do, and also what that does to the squad. If you're 7 or 8 changes, that's quite a lot.
But of course, Tom, we need to raise the standards.
Absolutely.
And we need to bear in mind, if the Arsenal wants to compete at the big level, we need to be serious.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kept my face straight as long as but I mean, there was a serious point behind that. But Arsenal are a serious club, right? And they do need to deliver now. There's no question on that. Like,
Yeah, quite.
But I'm as we said before, I'm quite confident they will, and I think this is going to be a big window. I really do.
And yeah, I actually agree with you. So, and I know my former broadcast partner who's watching from afar in sunny Kent at the moment. It'll be shaking his fists at me saying, "No, he won't sign anybody. He won't do anything. What does Arteta know?" Uh, the best thing we can do is see where we are, in about 40 odd days, and then we can discuss if we are indeed in crisis or not. Let's
Yeah,
bear in mind how consistent we have been in the last 3 years in terms of the Premier League.
Yeah,
in points taken as well.
Yeah, and look, it was a down in the Premier League this year. I think there were some mistakes made. I think there was also some genuine mitigating circumstances, and the finances is one of them. Where people might not like it. The thing that drives me mad though at the moment, I'm just going to get this off my chest, is
go ahead.
Arteta doesn't sign them. Arteta is part of the process of signing players. They're not going to sign a player that he doesn't want, right?
No.
But he's not the only decider here, and Berta is going to be incredibly influential in this. Edu, by all accounts, was also, quite instrumental. Berta, I think, is probably an upgrade on Edu, but I think that shows where Arsenal have gone to as well. But this idea that it's just Arteta signing players and Arteta decides everything is it's just not right.
Ludicrous, isn't it?
It doesn't happen at any club. It doesn't make sense. Like, he can't physically do it, but also a lot of very reputable journalists from the likes of Ornstein, James McNicholas, proper guys that follow Arsenal a lot are saying there's a transfer committee at Arsenal just like there is at every other club. And we need them all to generally be in consensus. There is worlds where one might not agree and it will still happen. But, it's for the birds. It's just Arteta. And of course, he's a big voice in it. And rightly so, he should be. He's the manager. But he's not the only.
There are voices amongst the back room, and they need to finance the deals. They need to put everything together as a whole team of people that put that sort of stuff together, as Dom's quite rightly said. So yeah, that's a great point. As I think we are looking to wrap up the stream. Do you know what, Dom? We've actually doubled the amount of time that we were going to do this stream, mate.
Yeah.
And we should wrap up. We should wrap it up because I've literally been on the go since about 3 a.m. this morning. So and I went out for a sherbet earlier on as well. So it's been a long day. So I want to thank everybody who has managed to see our stream today. We had trouble at the start thanks to StreamYard, and we managed to beat StreamYard, everybody. Thank you to Posh Bertie, who's in the stream, being moderator as well. Remember to raise your standards and don't miss your trains. That is a really, very good way to end this. Of course, if you like what we do on Gooner Gathering, you know what we need to do. You need like this stream. We need to subscribe to the channel. You need maybe even like to follow twitch.tv/Gooner Gathering. There's the social media pages there at Gooner Lee Mead for myself, at Gooner Gathering. We have at AFC Domination for Dom. Of course, this will actually go out if I can figure out the technology. I'll make sure it goes out to your channel, Dom. I know it's had trouble search first doors, but we can make it happen later on. We'll put it on a delay if you like. But yeah, Dom, anything you want to plug before we get off air, mate?
No, thanks for having me on. To say it was due to be dual streamed. It hasn't been, but not a big deal. It's always a pleasure to be on your channel, and it's a great channel. Yeah. So thanks to everyone that popped in. I've got a video out tomorrow morning at 8:01.
01. Why?
Because quite a lot of videos go out at 8 o'clock. So if I go at 8:01, it's the top of the list because I have a much smaller channel. So I've only just started.
Put a video at 7:59 then.
So I started out about 6 months ago. So you know, if you like what you've heard from me tonight, or even if you didn't, go and give me a subscribe if you can at Arsenal Domination. But yeah, Lee, it's always a pleasure, and I think we're doing a special show soon, right?
Absolutely. It's been a little while since I've done one of these, but I will sit Dom down in the upcoming weeks, probably on a pre-record. It's one of them sit-down interviews where I turn into Michael Parkinson and we discuss 3 matches that Dom would like to watch with us on a desert island that somehow has got a television on it that's powered by solar power. It doesn't matter how we get there. It doesn't matter how the DVD player works. It doesn't matter. It's a bit of a laugh, and we'll get into that. It'll be some fun content to do on the closed season. Yeah. Before we get off air, I do want to say a big thank you to Matt Roberts, one of our team here at Gooner Gathering. One of his short videos has already gone out on the channel earlier on today. There'll be another 4, I think, I've got in the can ready to go out. So, yeah, cheers for Matt for helping us out on the channel. And that is it for us for this evening. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. We are going to get out of here and enjoy the rest of your evening. Dom, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you all next time. Oh, I would do, but there's another comment in the stream. 2 seconds, I will put it up. It doesn't matter how we get there. Sounds familiar. Hashtag you love it. Oh, you know what? He's an alumni of the channel, and Posh, you've mentioned him, so I'll do this. So even from the get-go on our channel, as Posh alluded to earlier on, our love of the wrestling is well known here, and I think it's only right. I wish Adam Pacitti, the founder, the big one, as he's known, as the leader of Cultaholic Wrestling, who's stepping down. Play the clip. He says, "Hold on, I might have it there. I'm not sure I do. Posh. I don't know if I have it there. I don't have it automatically to hand at the moment, but or do I? No, I don't have the clip at the moment. But Adam Pacitti is stepping away from Cultaholic Wrestling. I wish him all the best. Also, shout out to Tempest and Wrestle Talk is stepping away as well. Anyway, I've been here for too long, as is Dom. I'm keeping him away from his bedtime. So look, we are going to get out of here. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. We're going to get out of here. Thank you and good night. See you later.
Bye all.
Awkward silence.